by Niall Boyce. The inaugural lecture of Susan Schilling, Professor of Cybernetic History at University College London, delivered on the 14th of February, 2210. We can summarise 21st century man in just 4 words. He threw things away. He threw away plastic bags and drink cans and bottles. He threw away food. He threw away money and, worst of all, he threw away machines. Not for him, the make, do and mend of his fathers and grandfathers, no. The smallest, most fixable flaw would be reason enough for him to junk the whole thing. His mobile phone, his laptop, his car, all would face summary execution the minute they were less than 100% perfect. Often, the machine didn't even need to be broken. It just needed to be old, and by old, I mean months old. Sometimes less. Everything had to be the latest. It couldn't last forever. Very soon, the time was ripe for the coming of the love machines. Of course, some electronic devices were held in very high esteem before the invention of the love machines. My PhD was on the subject of these proto-love machines, which were adored and prized by their owners. They had names like BlackBerry and iPhone and Rampant Rabbit. Nevertheless, even these treasured items would eventually be traded in for more up-to-date models. It's obvious to us now that the planet couldn't sustain this level of consumption. But I think it was obvious to them then. Still, they kept at it, throwing things away until there was almost nothing left. It was therefore in a state of emergency that the greatest scientists, engineers and software designers met at the Reykjavik conference to decide the way forward. Nobody is sure exactly who came up with the idea, but it was so ingenious, just so beautiful in its simplicity that it caught on straight away. People needed to fall in love with their machines, and their machines needed to love them back. It was something of a technical challenge, but not an insurmountable one. After all, machines had been built that could fight and kill. Surely it wasn't such a massive leap to design machines that could love. But still, think about how novel it must have seemed to the average person. For example, instead of buying a mobile phone based on its price or its size or its technical features, you would simply walk into the shop and look at a display cabinet of winking, cooing handsets until one caught your eye. You'd approach it, perhaps offer a few compliments, see if it was interested. It may well reject your advances. It might be holding out for Mr. or Miss Right. But, well, it may already be promised to another. But maybe, just maybe, you would find the one. It would vibrate with pleasure as you picked it up. Its display would light up in an explosion of hearts and flowers. And it would emit a ringtone like harps and heavenly angels singing. You would never be parted. If it broke, you would fix it. If it got lost, you would roam the streets calling its name until you were reunited. Most importantly, you would never want to buy another mobile phone ever again. The first love machines proved astonishingly popular and successful, and within 6 months, all electronic devices came fitted with the capacity to love and be loved as standard. There were, needless to say, unforeseen complications. There will always be certain individuals who enjoy toying with the affections of others, and it turned out that certain machines were similarly inclined. Some people, for example, were heartbroken to discover themselves the owners of promiscuous cars, which would be secretly entertaining a variety of drivers, concealing their infidelity with careful timetabling and a scrupulous valet service. It also didn't occur to anyone in those early days that if machines could fall in love with humans, they could easily fall in love with each other. Some found their kitchens became places of simmering sexual tension, the kettle, toaster and oven constantly exchanging meaningful glances and flirtatious remarks. But overall, however, the benefits outweighed the disadvantages. The love machines made everyone more open-minded. Once people knew that they could love and be loved by machines, all of the previous barriers of sexual prejudice fell away. If you lived in a comfortable menage with your various items of electronic equipment, how could you say it was wrong or unnatural for man to love man? Or woman, woman? Or for that matter, both. Or indeed, both at the same time. Another unexpected but welcome side effect was the end to all war. Inevitably, love machine technology found its way by accident into military computers. Spy satellites began to fall in love with each other and started sharing secrets. Missiles fired at installations they loved would detonate themselves in midair rather than destroy their targets. Pretty soon, war became impracticable. And apart from a few people who still hit each other with sticks from time to time, that is how it remains to this day. Love machine technology became, like the most successful technologies, invisible and taken for granted. So when Katie was built, it was natural that she should, amongst other things, be a love machine. Katie, our computer-aided technology interface with extraterrestrials, has been around for just over 100 years, sitting at the top of the building once known as the BT Tower in London, beaming radio signals to distant planets and listening into the stars in the hope of discovering intelligent life. And here we come to the point of my lecture. It was, you will remember, a couple of weeks ago that Katie began to act strangely. She stopped writing reports on her latest findings. She did not respond to attempts to communicate with her. From time to time, her tower would glow brightly in a blaze of red and white light, and she would tremble and emit a high, trilling note of pleasure. There is, I think, only one explanation for this behaviour. Think about it. The reason humans have survived this long is because of the love machines. So if another species, light years away, have lasted long enough to communicate with us, it is highly likely that it too has invented love machines. I can see that some of you can see what I'm getting at. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, I believe that Katie has made contact with extraterrestrial computers, one very similar to herself, and she is in love. The vital question, of course, is this. If Katie is in love, is the feeling mutual? I am afraid that we will not find out in our lifetimes. Oh, Katie is a self-maintaining machine. She can survive for hundreds of years, perhaps thousands. She has all the time she needs for the lengthy business of beaming radio signals back and forth across the vast distances of space. We live for a century and a half at the most, so we can only witness the beginning of her affair. Who knows? Perhaps by the time it blossoms, humans will be long gone, and love machines like Katie will be the sole intelligent beings on the planet. 21st century man frequently asked, what will survive of us? Will it be television broadcasts leaking out of the atmosphere and onto endless journey across the cosmos? Will it be landfill rubbish dumps filled with things we didn't want to buy in the first place? Or perhaps it will be nothing. Nothing but a cloud of radioactive dust. We now know the answer to this question. 21st century man himself knew it, but he paid no attention. Possibly because it was a poet who said it. What will survive of us is love.